The bully always thinks she's invincible, until she picks the wrong person to torment. What would you do if the quietest girl in school isn't as weak as she seems? What if the one everyone ignores and despises is hiding a secret powerful enough to destroy the ruler? This is the story of Luna Carter, a black girl in a school where privilege determines who is the ruler and who is the prey. Olivia Parker, the daughter of a powerful politician, thinks Luna is just an insignificant target, an easy prey. But Olivia doesn't know, and no one can ever guess, that Luna is not a victim. She's a storm waiting to sweep everything away. Follow this story until the end, because everything starts in silence, but will end with justice. And when those who are looked down upon fight back, no one can stop them. The sky that morning was a dull gray. No rain, but not a single ray of sunshine either. Luna Carter tightened her backpack straps, took a deep breath, and stepped through the gates of Hawthorne High, a vast old school with perfectly trimmed trees, a pristine stone-paved courtyard, and a stifling, unfamiliar atmosphere. How many times had she transferred schools? 4? 5? She didn't even remember anymore. But every time she knew what would happen, especially when she walked into a place like this. A school for the elite, where most of the students were white, children of wealthy and powerful families. As soon as she stepped through the door, she felt the eyes on her. Not the usual kind of curious stares, but the scrutinizing, judging, rejecting kind. Whispers buzzed around her. "What's she doing here? I thought this school didn't offer scholarships to people like her. Guess they're implementing a diversity policy now." Luna didn't look up, didn't react, just tightened her backpack straps a little more. She was used to this. At every school she had ever been to, the story was always the same. First the stares, then the whispers, followed by the mocking smiles, and eventually the bullying. She knew the script too well. But what made Hawthorne High scarier than the other schools wasn't just that she was one of the few black students here. It was because this school had not only the arrogant rich kids, but also an underground social system, where power didn't just come from money, but from manipulation and control. She pulled her hoodie up a little more, lowered her head, and tried to blend into the crowd. As long as she didn't draw attention, she'd be fine. As long as she stayed away from the dangerous ones, she'd be fine. But the problem was, Hawthorne High was not a place where you could easily blend into the crowd. And as soon as she stepped into the main hallway, she felt another presence, a glare colder, sharper than the others. A cold voice spoke from behind her. "Oh, how interesting. Do we have a new Cinderella in school?" Luna didn't need to turn around to know who had just spoken. Olivia Parker, the queen of Hawthorne High, the one who controlled everything. And from that moment on, Luna knew she had stepped into a battle she never asked for. Luna didn't look back, but she could clearly feel the atmosphere around her change. The gazes directed at her were no longer just curiosity. They gradually turned into something sharper, more malicious, like a predator that had just sniffed out the weak. Olivia Parker. That name was practically a brand at Hawthorne High. If anyone had power comparable to the principals in this school, it was her. Olivia wasn't just perfectly beautiful. She was also the daughter of Senator William Parker, a highly influential politician. From a young age, Olivia had been taught that power didn't just lie in the numbers of a bank account, but in the way one could manipulate people. And she did it flawlessly. Olivia controlled everything. From the sports teams, the extracurricular groups, the exclusive clubs, to even the school's social media. A single, subtle post from Olivia could turn someone into the most hated person overnight. A word from her could decide who would become popular and who would be erased from all social circles. Even the teachers avoided conflict with Olivia because everyone knew her father could get them fired with just a phone call. Luna had heard of people like Olivia, but this was the first time she'd faced someone with such power directly. For a moment, Luna felt an electric shock run down her spine. It wasn't fear, it was absolute vigilance, a survival instinct she'd honed over the years. That afternoon, the cafeteria was noisy and crowded. The clattering of knives and forks against trays, the murmur of conversation, the scent of melted cheese mixing with the aroma of grilled meat. Luna clutched her tray of food, trying to find a secluded corner where she could eat lunch without drawing attention. But fate seemed to have other plans for her. In a single moment of carelessness, a slight bump and a drop of dark red sauce splattered onto her white designer jacket. The noise in the cafeteria suddenly stopped. Olivia paused, looking down at the stain on her jacket, then slowly lifted her gaze to meet Luna's. The entire room seemed to freeze, everyone holding their breath, waiting for Olivia's reaction. Luna wanted to apologize, wanted to leave immediately, but her instincts told her that there was no way out of this easily. Olivia tilted her head, her dark red lips curling into a smile full of meaning. "Don't tell me you don't know how to walk, or, in your world, do people crawl on both hands and feet?" Laughter erupted. The laughter didn't just come from Olivia's close friends, but from everyone around. Those sitting at other tables, who had no connection to the incident, laughed along because they feared Olivia more than they hated Luna. Luna lowered her head, feeling the weight of all the eyes on her. She didn't fight back. Not because she feared Olivia, but because she knew this wasn't the right time to fight. But in that moment she understood that she had been marked. Olivia had chosen her as a target. And the worst part? Once Olivia chose someone, she wouldn't stop until that person was completely destroyed. Luna once hoped that if she didn't resist, if she stayed silent and tried to avoid trouble, Olivia Parker would lose interest and turn her attention to another target. But she was wrong. Because for people like Olivia, silence is not a barrier. It is an invitation. The next day, when Luna opened her locker, she discovered a piece of paper firmly stuck to the locker door, with bold, jagged handwriting as if the writer wanted it to be clear and unmistakable. "Give this place back to us." Luna stared at the words for a few seconds, not feeling surprised nor angry. She knew this would happen. She just didn't think it would start so quickly. She tore the paper down, crumpled it into a ball, and shoved it into her pocket. As she closed the locker, she heard giggling right behind her. Oh my God, someone didn't like today's gift. Luna didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Olivia stood leaning against the wall, arms crossed, her eyes gleaming with amusement. She wasn't standing alone. Around her were her loyal friends, the ones who always laughed along no matter what Olivia said. "I think you should keep it as a souvenir," Olivia continued, her voice sweet in a terrifying way. Luna didn't respond, just turned and walked away. But as she took a few steps, someone stuck out their foot. She tripped. The sound of books hitting the floor, the rustle of papers in the air, and the laughter that echoed through the hallway. Luna braced herself against the tiled floor, her breath steady, her heartbeat unchanged. She knew this would happen. She just didn't think it would happen so quickly. "Oh, sorry, my leg's so long I didn't see you there," a female voice called out. Luna didn't need to look to know it was Haley, Olivia's right-hand girl. Luna said nothing. She simply stood up, picking up each book, each sheet of paper. Not rushing, not trembling, not showing the slightest sign of weakness. Olivia watched her for a few seconds, then smirked. "You know, I'm really surprised. I thought you'd cry." Luna didn't answer, but Olivia didn't need an answer. She only needed to see Luna endure it. The days that followed only got worse. In the morning, Luna arrived at class and found that someone had filled her backpack with water. When she unzipped it, water poured out in streams, soaking the desk. Her notebooks were smeared with ink, and the papers stuck together, irreparably damaged. "Oh my God, someone spilled water on this poor girl's backpack," Olivia exclaimed in a mockingly shocked tone, but her eyes sparkled with delight. The others laughed. A few stood there watching, but no one spoke up to defend Luna. Luna took her books out, placed them on the desk, without showing any sign of being flustered or angry. She didn't give Olivia the reaction she was waiting for, but that didn't stop Olivia. At lunchtime, when Luna entered the cafeteria, she had prepared herself for anything. She found a table in the corner, opened her lunchbox, trying to enjoy the rare moment when she didn't have to face hostility around her. But Olivia wouldn't let her have that opportunity. Before Luna could even pick up her spoon, a hand reached out. "Let me help you pick today's meal." Before she could react, a cup of sauce was poured over her tray, spilling onto the table, soaking into her books. Laughter rang out again. "Must be just like the food you eat at home, huh?" Olivia raised an eyebrow, her gaze full of mockery. Luna looked down at her stained shirt, wiping her hands with a napkin. She didn't look at Olivia. She didn't respond. But Olivia didn't need her to react. Olivia only needed to keep pushing her to the edge. After a week of relentless pranks, Olivia decided it was time to issue an ultimatum. One afternoon, when Luna had just gotten her books from her locker, she felt a presence behind her. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was. "Listen, the school isn't for you," Olivia said, her voice no longer mocking, but slow and calm, as though she were explaining something obvious. "Don't make things awkward for everyone." Luna put her books in her bag, not responding. "Really?" Olivia continued. "You think you can survive here? You think if you just keep your head down and stay silent, we'll let you off the hook?" Luna remained silent, but she could feel Olivia moving closer, her breath brushing the air. "Get out of here before I make things worse." Luna closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, then turned and walked away. Olivia stood still, watching her, the corners of her mouth curling into a satisfied smile. She thought she had won. But Olivia didn't know she had made the biggest mistake of her life. She thought Luna was weak, but no one truly knows how terrifying a storm can be while it's still hidden. Olivia Parker had never lost at any game. From a young age, she had been taught that power wasn't just in what she owned, but in how she controlled others. She proved this time and time again, with the weak, the vulnerable, and those too afraid to resist. No one dared challenge her because they knew that once Olivia had set her sights on someone, that person's life would never be the same. Luna Carter, with her quiet demeanor and endless patience, seemed like the perfect target. She never argued, never shed a tear in front of others, and never fought back. And that only made Olivia more intrigued. But Olivia didn't know that she had gone too far. It was a Friday morning. The air was still hot despite it being early fall, with sunlight filtering through the trees and casting long shadows across the schoolyard. Luna walked down the hallway, trying to keep her distance from the crowd as usual, but she knew that was impossible. Olivia always found her, and just as expected, when Luna passed by the lockers, a hand grabbed her wrist and yanked her back. Before she could react, something cold and slimy splashed down on her head. The hallway erupted in laughter. Milk, thick, condensed milk, running down her forehead, soaking her hair, dripping onto her jacket. A sour smell filled the air, and Luna had to grit her teeth to stop herself from grimacing. "I'm just helping you soften your hair. Don't thank me." Olivia's voice rang out. sweet in a terrifying way, her eyes sparkling with the joy of a conqueror. Luna didn't move. No one spoke up. No one helped. Some students just watched, others laughed loudly, and a few even pulled out their phones to record the scene. Luna clenched her fists, her fingers trembling slightly, but she stayed silent. She took a deep breath, trying to suppress the anger rising inside her. She had endured much worse. She had taken much more. Just stay quiet, keep walking, and it would all pass. But Olivia didn't give her that chance. She shoved Luna's shoulder hard, causing her to stumble and fall to the floor. The laughter roared again. Luna pushed herself up with her hands, breathing quickly, the milk continuing to drip from her hair, soaking into her jacket, her knees. She closed her eyes for a moment, reminding herself to stay calm. Then she opened her eyes. For the first time, she stared directly at Olivia. "You should stop." Luna's voice wasn't loud, wasn't angry, but there was something cold and sharp beneath it. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." Olivia raised an eyebrow. For a moment, she seemed slightly taken aback, but then she laughed, a mocking, derisive laugh. "What are you going to do?" She leaned down, her voice dropping low, just enough for Luna to hear. "Go cry to your mom?" She sneered, waiting for Luna to react. But Luna said nothing more. She simply stood up, took a tissue from her pocket, and slowly wiped her face, not looking at anyone, not saying a word, before turning and walking away. Olivia didn't understand why, but a chill ran down her spine. And that was the first time she felt a fleeting sense of unease, but she still didn't realize her mistake. She didn't know that moment marked her downfall, because people like Luna Carter weren't weak. People like her didn't fight back immediately. They waited, and when they struck, no one could escape the storm they brought with them. Luna stepped out of the bathroom, water still dripping from her thick hair, but she didn't care. The sour smell of yogurt had been washed away, and the stained coat was thrown into the corner of the room, but the sticky, disgusting feeling it left still lingered deeply in her mind. She stood before the mirror, staring straight into her own eyes. Those eyes held no fear, no explosive anger, no weakness that Olivia Parker always hoped to see. Only a deep, quiet stillness, a storm quietly forming that no one could see. Olivia thought she had won, that Luna was just a helpless mouse who could do nothing but endure. But she had gone too far. She didn't know that there were people who don't react immediately, who don't scream or retaliate. Instead, they wait, they calculate, and when they strike, they never fail. Luna sat at the desk, opened her laptop, and her fingers flew over the keyboard. Someone like Olivia Parker might be powerful in social standing, but that power is based on control, and nothing is more fragile than a foundation built on lies. Messages, old posts, and internal school forum chats slowly came into view. Olivia had once thought that the things she said, the actions she took, would be forgotten over time, but the internet never forgets. If you know where to look, everything can be recovered. Luna found messages Olivia had sent years ago. Racist, classist mockery. The cruel words she used to humiliate weaker students. Chats with her friends where Olivia boasted about her cruel pranks. The fabricated rumors she spread just to see someone crumble. Luna read each message, each word, each line of text, feeling the disgust seep into every cell, but she didn't let herself be overwhelmed by emotions. She silently saved it all, every photo, every conversation, every piece of evidence, meticulously organized in a folder, each fragment of a picture that, when revealed, would destroy the world Olivia had so carefully built. But just the messages weren't enough. Luna needed more. She needed the stories, the witnesses, the people who had suffered the same pain she had. Olivia Parker hadn't just targeted her. She had been doing this for years, repeatedly, to those she deemed unworthy of existing in her world. A female student from the previous year had to transfer after Olivia spread a fake rumor about a love affair. A male student was humiliated in front of the whole school just for daring to oppose Olivia in a student election. Another girl had cried for weeks after being given a derogatory nickname Olivia had created. These wounds might have been hidden over time, but they never truly disappeared. Luna began reaching out to these people, not directly, not hastily, just quietly sending messages, leaving signs that she understood what they had gone through. Not everyone was ready to speak up. Not everyone wanted to relive painful memories. But there were some who were tired of the silence, and they started to share. Messages, videos never made public, lies Olivia used to manipulate the entire school. All of it slowly came to light. Luna wasn't in a rush. She knew that the best revenge wasn't a direct blow, but a trap, a web carefully woven that, when the prey realized it, would be too late to escape. She took her time gathering information, verifying every detail, connecting every piece. Someone as clever as Olivia Parker could get away with minor troubles, but when all the evidence piled up, when all the people who had once feared her stood up at once, no one could protect her anymore. When Luna clicked to save all the data into a carefully encrypted folder, she didn't feel relief. She didn't feel smug or joyful. There was only a deep, quiet stillness, a storm on the verge of being unleashed. Olivia Parker had won too many times, had grown too accustomed to not being punished. But this time, she had made the biggest mistake of her life. Luna didn't forgive. And this time, no one could save Olivia from the truth. The next morning, Luna walked into school with a completely different demeanor. No longer did she keep her head down, nor did she take those hesitant steps as though she wanted to shrink away. There was no longer the submissive look that Olivia had always enjoyed observing. Today, Luna wore an all-black outfit, from her jacket and jeans to her sneakers. Her curly hair was tied up high, revealing a face with dark, deep eyes, sharper than ever. No one at school noticed that Luna's silence today wasn't like the days before. It wasn't the silence of someone in fear, but the silence of someone who had just declared a challenge. The hallway buzzed with the usual chatter, students laughing, gossiping about weekend games or upcoming tests. But when Luna passed by, a number of people turned to look. Perhaps it was because of the change in how she walked. Perhaps it was her eyes. Or perhaps it was something unexplainable. An odd feeling crept into the air, as if something was about to happen. Olivia Parker leaned against her locker, surrounded by a group of her closest friends, as if the hallway was her territory. When Luna passed by, Olivia immediately seized the moment, like a cat spotting the last mouse in the room. "Oh, looks like a walking funeral," Olivia sneered, her voice sweet but laced with sarcasm. "Are you crying for yourself?" Her friends burst into laughter, but Luna didn't stop. She didn't look at Olivia, didn't respond, just walked past as if Olivia didn't even exist. That made Olivia furrow her brow for a moment. Normally, Luna would have lowered her head, quickened her pace, or at least hesitated for a second from the shame. But today, she was completely ignored. Not in the way of someone weak and scared, but in the way of someone focused on something more important. This gave Olivia a strange feeling, not quite anxiety, but an uncomfortable unease creeping in. But she quickly dismissed it. Olivia Parker had never feared anyone. That afternoon, while Olivia was having lunch with her friends, her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. No name, no identifying symbol, just a link and a single sentence. "Did you forget this?" Olivia raised an eyebrow and clicked on the link without thinking. The phone screen opened to a video. Her face appeared, clear and sharp. She stood in the hallway, arms crossed in front of her chest, dressed in a perfect designer outfit. Across from her stood a younger girl, nearly a head shorter, with red-rimmed eyes and trembling hands clutching a book tightly to her chest. And then Olivia, with a cold tone, spoke a line that made her almost stop breathing as she heard herself again. "Who do you think you are? We don't want people like you here." Olivia felt her stomach tighten, her heart rate speeding up. That was one of her pranks from the previous year, one of the times when she didn't just bully with words, but purposely crushed someone. The girl in the video transferred schools just a month later, never to return. Olivia had completely forgotten about her, because to her, that was just one of the hundreds of weaklings who had once bowed before her power. But now, the past had come back. Cold sweat formed on her palms. She quickly scrolled down to the comments section of the video, but there was nothing. No one had shared it. No one had reposted. This wasn't a public exposure. This was a warning. Someone was holding on to these things. Someone was controlling the game. But who? Olivia glanced around the lunch table, her friends still laughing. None of them seemed to know about the message. She scanned the cafeteria, her eyes darting across every face, trying to figure out who was behind this. And then she saw Luna Carter. She was sitting alone in the corner of the room, not talking to anyone. Not on her phone, no unusual expressions. But there was something different about the way she sat there. Silent. As if she already knew Olivia would receive this message. As if she were the one who sent it. A strange chill ran down Olivia's spine. Luna Carter, no way. Olivia had dealt with hundreds of weaklings like her, and none had ever dared to fight back. So why did something feel off this time? But before she could think further, another message appeared on the screen. "We've only just begun." Every cell in Olivia's body tensed. Someone was hunting her. For the first time in her life, Olivia felt uneasy, and she had no idea this was just the beginning. Olivia Parker had never thought that one day she would become the prey. From a young age, she had learned to manipulate everything around her. At home, she was the beloved daughter of a highly influential politician, who constantly taught her that image is everything, and that power is not something given, it is something you must take. At school, she applied these lessons thoroughly, building an impenetrable position for herself, a reputation no one dared challenge. She was not just the queen of Hawthorne High, she controlled everything. From the cheerleading squad, the student council, to the lavish parties that only those who were worthy were invited to. For Olivia, power meant fear. No one dared oppose her because they knew what the consequences would be. Those who had tried were crushed without mercy. But this time, things were different. This time, she was the one being hunted. That night, Olivia was lying in bed, her phone beside her, her fingers scrolling across the screen absent-mindedly. She wasn't really focused on anything, but there was an odd feeling lingering in her mind, a sense of unease she couldn't shake. She was used to controlling everything, but after the anonymous message this morning, she felt that something was off. Her phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. "Did you forget this?" Along with the message was a link. Olivia frowned and clicked on it without thinking. The screen opened to a video. Her own voice echoed from the speakers, cold, arrogant, undeniable. "Who do you think you are? We don't want people like you here." The footage froze on the face of a girl, her eyes red, her lips trembling as she tried to keep her composure, while laughter echoed around her. Olivia remembered this moment all too well. She and her friends had bullied the girl to the point where she had to drop out just weeks later, and now Olivia couldn't even remember her name. But now, the past was no longer just the past. She quickly closed the video and opened the comments, but there was nothing. No one had shared it, no one had reposted it. This wasn't a public expose. This was a warning. A cold chill ran down Olivia's spine. Someone was holding on to these things. Someone was pulling the strings. But who? Before she could think further, her phone buzzed again. Another message appeared. "We're just getting started." Every cell in Olivia's body tensed. She looked around the room, trying to remind herself that no one was here but her, but the feeling of dread didn't go away. She checked her social media friends list, scrolling through each name, each face, trying to find who might be behind this. But there was no one. And then a name popped into her head. Luna Carter. No way. She stared at Luna's photo on her social profile. A calm, silent face, nothing like someone capable of orchestrating such a sophisticated attack. But Olivia couldn't deny that Luna was the only one with a motive. She quickly scrolled down her school's social media feed, trying to find something else to distract herself. But then she saw the most horrifying thing of the night. The hashtag #Olivia Parker is over party was trending. The next morning, Olivia walked into school with dark circles under her eyes. She pulled her coat hood down, walking quickly through the hallway, but it didn't stop the eyes that followed her from all directions. No one spoke directly to her, but Olivia could feel it in the whispers, the glances, the snickers full of mockery. For the first time in her life, Olivia Parker was not revered. A group of girls stood at the corner of the hallway, scrolling through their phones and bursting into laughter. A guy curled his lip as she passed by, shaking his head as though he was looking at something contemptible. Olivia clenched her fists and walked faster, trying to find a safe place, but realized that there was no place in school that was safe for her anymore. She quickly opened her phone, scrolling down the school's social media page, where new posts continued to appear. "I always thought Olivia Parker was great until I saw these texts. She's truly disgusting. Can't believe we let someone like her control the school all these years. She deserves to be expelled." Olivia desperately searched for any comment defending her, anyone still loyal to her, but there was no one. Those who once followed her were silent. They no longer stood by her, because for the first time they realized that Olivia had no power left. But the worst part wasn't social media. The worst part was when she realized there was a pair of eyes watching her from afar. Luna Carter. She was sitting alone, not talking to anyone, not touching her phone, showing no expression on her face. But Olivia knew somehow. Luna had seen right through it all. A wave of fear spread through Olivia. Luna didn't need to mock her, didn't need to say a word, because Olivia knew exactly what was happening. Luna had planned this from the start. Olivia had thought she could control everyone, but she had forgotten that the silent ones aren't always the victims. Luna had waited. And now she was giving back everything, piece by piece, in a way that Olivia couldn't fight. And the scariest part? This was just the beginning. Olivia Parker walked into school with an uncomfortable, unfamiliar feeling. She wasn't used to this silence, to the averted gazes, to the sense of being ignored as if she no longer held any value in this world. Her entire life had been centered around the idea that she was the center of attention, the one who held absolute power, the one who could dictate the fate of the week with just a snap of her fingers. But today, no one stood by her. There were no followers trailing behind, no fake smiles trying to please her, no flattering words. All that remained was the cold distance, the eerie silence, and the judging stares. She walked down the hallway, once her kingdom, where every step she took was followed by admiration, by eyes full of longing to belong to her circle of power. But today, her steps were heavier than ever. The people who used to swarm around her like vultures had scattered, not out of any sense of compassion or realization of their wrongs, but simply because they no longer needed her. She had lost her strength, her position, the one thing that had helped her maintain control in this world. Olivia didn't need to look at her phone to know that the posts were still coming, that each message, each video was spreading at lightning speed. She had tried to delete them, tried to stamp out everything before it even started, but this time she couldn't control the situation. She knew that the more she tried to erase it, the worse things would get. The heavy atmosphere clung to her like a water-soaked cloak, cold and damp, seeping into her skin, making it hard to breathe. She scanned the faces around her, trying to find anyone who still stood by her, but all of them avoided her. All of them kept their distance. When she entered the classroom, she immediately realized that everything had changed. She used to have a designated seat, always surrounded by the most loyal followers, those who would laugh at anything she said, no matter how unfunny, those who held their heads high just for being part of her power clique. But today, that seat was empty. No one wanted to sit next to her. No one wanted to be associated with the name Olivia Parker anymore. Her phone on the desk buzzed incessantly. She knew full well it wasn't a message of comfort or defense from anyone. She picked it up, quickly scrolling through the screen, feeling her stomach tighten as she saw the comments still flooding in. Never thought Olivia Parker could fall this far. Did we really let her control everything all these years? Imagine how she feels now that she's the victim. Maybe she should experience that for a bit. Cold sweat ran down Olivia's back as she struggled to control her breath, feeling like she couldn't hold it together anymore. She had been defeated. That afternoon, she received a text calling her to the principal's office. Her heart skipped a beat, not out of fear, but because she knew this was the moment she couldn't escape. The principal's office, a place that had never made her feel afraid, now felt like a courtroom. Across from her sat the principal, flanked by two other teachers, all with stern, cold expressions. The principal flipped through a folder on the desk, tapping his fingers lightly but deliberately. "Olivia, can you explain what's going on?" She tried to remain calm, but she knew the tremble in her voice was impossible to hide. "Sir, I don't know what you're talking about." The principal placed a stack of documents on the table and leaned forward. "Would you like to go over these messages, or these videos? All the evidence showing that you've bullied, humiliated, and manipulated your classmates for years." She looked down at the papers, each page heavier than 1,000 pounds, each bolded word seeming to bury her. She wanted to say it wasn't her, that it was all a misunderstanding, that someone had edited or fabricated everything to frame her, but she knew that would be useless. "The school has received numerous reports about your behavior," the principal continued, his tone devoid of any patience. "We are taking everything seriously, and there may be disciplinary actions taken." Olivia clenched her fists, her breathing becoming more rapid. She walked out of the office with heavy feet, feeling as if she had fallen into an endless abyss. The hallway seemed wider than ever, but there was no place where she could feel safe. She looked around, searching for a familiar face, someone who could help her escape this situation, but everyone turned away. Then she saw Luna Carter. Luna was sitting there, alone, not talking to anyone, not glued to her phone like everyone else. She was just sitting quietly, as if she had known this would happen, as if this was just the result of a plan that had been set in motion long ago. There was no smug smile, no hateful glare, no expression of a victor. Just silence. And that silence terrified Olivia more than anything. For the first time in her life, Olivia Parker realized she had lost, and this time, no one could save her. The atmosphere at school was so heavy that it was almost palpable. Ever since the school's social media exploded with posts exposing Olivia Parker's true self, no one looked at her with admiration anymore. The students gradually turned their backs on her. The teachers started paying more attention, and the principal had officially summoned her for an investigation. But even all of that wasn't enough to bring Olivia completely down. Despite losing the support of those who once sided with her, despite no longer being able to control the situation as she once did, Olivia still held on to something she always believed would never disappear: the Parker family's honor. With her father's position, Olivia thought this could be handled. The viral videos could be taken down if she reached out to the right person. The accusations could be forgotten if her family put pressure on the school. She still had ways to turn the tide, still had hope to escape the quagmire she had fallen into. But Olivia didn't know that the person behind all this had never intended to stop here. Luna Carter wasn't the type to play halfway, and Olivia Parker wouldn't just be disliked. She would be utterly destroyed. That morning began like any other, or at least that's what Olivia thought. She walked into school, her eyes dark from lack of sleep, her shoulders tense from the heavy pressure weighing on her. The threatening messages still kept coming on her phone. Rumors about her being suspended or even expelled spread everywhere. She no longer cared about the gossip, because she still had a glimmer of hope, and with just a little more time, she could find a way to regain control over everything. But then, as Olivia sat in class, a sound echoed through the hallways, classrooms, and every corner of the school. The PA system came on. Luna Carter's voice rang out, slow, clear, and cold enough to make the entire school stop and listen. "I warned you. You never know who's hiding what." A shiver ran down Olivia's spine. Before she could process what was happening, every screen in the school, from the ones in classrooms, the electronic bulletin boards in the hallways, to even the small screens on the teachers' desks, suddenly played a video. The first thing that appeared was Olivia Parker's own face. The video started with an old conversation filmed at a party 2 years ago. Olivia was standing among a group of friends, a cocktail in hand, her lips curling into a smug smile. And then her voice rang out, clear and undeniable. "They're just useless people, not worth existing at this school. I swear, if I were the principal, I'd expel all those freeloaders tomorrow." Laughter erupted from the crowd around her. The scene shifted to a group chat message. It was a conversation in Olivia's close friends group where she casually discussed fabricating rumors to get another student expelled. "Let me tell you, all we need to do is tell enough people that that girl slept with a teacher, and she'll be out of here." The entire school was engulfed in absolute silence. No one could believe what they were witnessing. But the video wasn't over. The screen changed, this time showing a video filmed in the school hallway. Olivia was standing in front of a petite student, the young girl's face full of fear, her eyes brimming with tears. "Who do you think you are? We don't want people like you here." It was the moment that had caused one girl to leave school in disgrace, a moment Olivia had long since forgotten. But now it was being broadcast to the entire school, every word she had spoken echoing in the air, every action she had taken exposed, with nowhere left to run. No one said a word when the video ended. No laughter, no whispers, no reactions. Just a deathly silence. Then someone pulled out their phone. A hashtag appeared on the screen. # expel Olivia Parker. Another person pulled out their phone to take a screenshot. And then, like a chain reaction, phones went up everywhere. New messages, new posts appearing on social media in the blink of an eye. In less than 5 minutes, everything was out of control. Olivia Parker had never been more afraid than she was at that moment. She stood there, her hands trembling, her eyes wide with panic. No one was by her side anymore. No one to turn to for help, no one to stand up and defend her. She turned and ran, darting through the hallway as if someone were chasing her, but in reality, she was running away from herself. She knew there was no turning back now. And as she passed the cafeteria, she caught sight of the only person not holding a phone, not gossiping, not mocking. Luna Carter was still sitting there, silent like a storm that had just passed, her dark, deep eyes staring directly at Olivia, not smug, not satisfied, only with the inevitability of the end. Olivia realized then that she had lost completely, and no one could save her anymore. Olivia Parker didn't remember how she had rushed out of the school. All she knew was that her legs kept running, her mind was blank, and her breath came in ragged gasps as if the air in her lungs was about to run out. She didn't look around, didn't care about the gazes following her, didn't hear the whispers or the mocking laughter ringing in her ears. All she knew was that she had to leave immediately. The wind hit her face as the school's big door swung open, but it didn't bring any relief. It only sent a cold shiver down her spine as she realized she had nowhere to go. This wasn't a nightmare. This was reality. A reality Olivia couldn't escape from. She rushed to the car, her trembling hand searching for her phone. In her mind, there was only one thought. Her parents would help her. They had to help her. She dialed her mom's number, the screen showing Mom, the only name that could save her now. The phone rang, each tone echoing in the heavy silence. She gritted her teeth, gripped the steering wheel tightly, feeling as though the world was shattering around her. Finally, her mom picked up. "Olivia?" Mrs. Parker's voice rang out, but it wasn't the usual gentle tone. It was sharp, cold, carrying something Olivia had never heard in her mom's voice before. Disappointment. "Mom," Olivia's voice cracked. She didn't know what to say, didn't know where to start. "You have to help me. Everything is falling apart. Someone set me up, they're spreading fake rumors, they—" "Stop right there, Olivia," her mom cut her off. "You think I haven't seen the video?" An eerie silence hung in the air for a moment. For the first time in her life, Olivia felt an uncontrollable fear. "Mom, it's not what you think, I swear. It's been edited. I can explain—" "No, you can't," her mom interrupted. "Do you know how far this has spread? All the parents are talking about it. Some of them have even contacted the press. Your dad is being questioned about our family's morals. You've caused a scandal, Olivia." She couldn't breathe. But I'm Dad's daughter. He can handle this." A cold laugh echoed from the other side of the line. "Your dad can't make the internet forget what you've done." Olivia opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. It couldn't be. It couldn't end like this. But the scariest part was that this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Olivia sat in the car for a long time, her mind a blank. She didn't know what to do next, didn't know where to go. Go home? No, that wasn't an option. Stay at school? Impossible. There was nowhere safe anymore. She opened social media almost instinctively, and immediately wished she hadn't. Her image flooded every screen, but not in the way she had grown accustomed to. No more perfectly edited photos, no more flattering posts or admiring comments. just contempt, just shame. Videos from the school's broadcast system had been recorded, shared thousands of times across platforms. It wasn't just students at the school, even the online community was tearing her apart. Olivia Parker, the queen of Hawthorne High, turned out to be just a disgusting bully. Look at how she pretends to be an angel on Instagram. It's nauseating. I used to wish I was like her. Now I'm just thankful I'm nothing like her. She scrolled down, seeing even worse comments. Do rich people really think they can do whatever they want without consequences? I hope she gets expelled. No, I actually hope she gets completely destroyed. Someone did this, and I really want to shake their hand. Olivia felt a wave of nausea rise in her throat. She had once had everything. Now she had nothing. That afternoon, when Olivia finally drove home, it felt like stepping into a battlefield. Her dad was standing in the living room, his face stiff, arms crossed over his chest. Beside him, her mom sat on the couch, her expression tense. No one rushed to hug her, no one asked if she was okay, only judgment. Dad? Olivia opened her mouth, but her voice was so soft it was barely audible. Sit down, her dad said, his voice emotionless. Olivia slowly made her way to the chair, each step feeling like it was pulling her deeper into darkness. We tried to control this, her dad said, his voice calm but laced with a hidden fury. But nothing can be done now. You let this happen. You've humiliated the entire family. Olivia clenched her hands, her nails digging into her palms until they almost bled. Your mom is right, he continued. There's nothing we can do to change this. The only thing you can do now is prepare for the consequences. Consequences? Olivia stammered, feeling like everything around her was collapsing faster than she could process. We'll arrange for you to leave Hawthorne High immediately, her mom spoke up for the first time in the conversation. For now, you'll stay out of the public eye. We'll take you somewhere else, away from all this. Leave school? Disappear? No, she couldn't. She'd once thought she could control everything, that she could regain her dignity, but now she realized the most horrifying truth. She no longer had the power to decide anything. Olivia Parker's nightmare wasn't over. It had only just begun. The news of Olivia Parker's downfall spread throughout the school faster than anything ever had before. In the days that followed, no one saw her show up to class. No longer did they spot her walking through the halls with her arrogant smile and sharp, challenging gaze. Rumors of her suspension, being forced to leave the school, or even hiding from the public continued to swirl. But whatever the truth was, everyone understood that the Queen of Hawthorne High had completely disappeared. No one feared her anymore. No one admired her anymore. No one saw her as the untouchable ruler anymore. All that remained was a prolonged silence, an empty space where she once reigned, a lesson that everyone would remember. But even though Olivia was gone, what she had left behind hadn't truly disappeared. Luna Carter sat alone in the cafeteria, still at her usual table, still quiet as always, but no one whispered about her anymore. No one laughed at her when she lowered her head. No one looked at her like she was the vulnerable outsider. They didn't fear her, but they respected her, in a way they couldn't entirely understand. Then, one day, a group of students walked up to her table. Luna didn't look up immediately. She knew they were there, felt the tension in the air, sensed the hesitation in each of their steps. But she waited, allowing them to decide for themselves what they really wanted to say. Finally, a voice spoke. We want to apologize." Luna lifted her eyes, seeing 3 people in front of her. 2 of them had laughed at Olivia's jokes, had stood in the crowd watching her humiliate Luna without saying a word. The other was a girl Luna remembered turning away when Olivia shoved her to the floor, had walked past her in the hallway with a confused look, but never intervened. Luna looked at them, waiting to hear what they would say next. "We've stayed silent for too long," the girl continued, her voice trailing off as if she was trying to find the words to express something that had weighed on her heart for a long time. "We saw what Olivia did to you. We saw everything. But none of us said anything. We didn't stand by you. We let you suffer alone." Luna didn't answer right away. She knew they were waiting for her to say something, waiting for her forgiveness, waiting for her to confirm that all they did was a small mistake, that they had been swept up by Olivia's power and didn't really mean any harm. But Luna wasn't the type of person to be fooled by empty words. "Why say this now?" she asked, her voice calm but carrying an unmistakable sharpness. The girl bit her lip, her eyes slightly confused. "I don't know. Maybe because Olivia's not here anymore." Luna tilted her head slightly, studying them again. "So, if Olivia were still here, if she still controlled everything, would you be standing here now?" No one answered. They knew the answer. And Luna knew it too. She looked into their eyes, seeing regret, but also relief. Because now, they no longer had to choose between standing up or staying silent. They didn't have to risk their reputations, didn't have to fear Olivia's retribution. Now that she had been toppled, they finally had the courage to say they were sorry. Luna wasn't angry. She just felt empty. Because the truth was, late apologies didn't change anything. She smiled, a light smile, but not one filled with forgiveness as they might have hoped. "I don't need an apology," she said, her voice steady, without hatred, but also without weakness. The three people in front of her froze. One of them frowned, as if not understanding why Luna was rejecting it. "But—" The girl spoke up, but Luna cut her off. "What I want isn't an apology," she continued, her gaze sharp, stronger than ever. "I just want justice." Silence enveloped them. She saw them freeze, a little awkward, a little ashamed, as if exposed. They hadn't really come here for Luna. They came for themselves. Because they wanted to be freed from their guilt, because they wanted to believe they weren't bad people, that they had compassion too. But the truth was, they had allowed this to happen. They had stood by as Olivia destroyed others, stayed silent when they could have spoken up. And now, when it was all over, they dared face Luna, not to help her, but to make themselves feel better. Luna understood that, but she wasn't obligated to make them feel better. She stood up, gathered her books, and looked at them one last time. "I hope that next time, when you see someone hurt, you won't wait until the bully is overthrown before you act." Then she walked away. The three stood there, not a word more spoken. Luna didn't look back, because she knew their silence now was the clearest answer. Luna Carter walked down the hallway of Hawthorne High, sensing the change in the air. Everything was still as usual. Laughter, footsteps, the sound of lockers opening and closing. But there was a subtle difference. The scrutinizing looks were no longer so obvious, the whispers no longer filled with malice. The school was not the same as before. No one dared to bully anyone anymore. Olivia Parker's downfall had not only made her vanish from the school, but had also broken a power structure that had existed for years. No one stood at the top manipulating the weaker ones. No one had enough influence to turn someone into a victim with just one word. Those who once followed Olivia, those who had mocked Luna, those who stood indifferent while she was humiliated, now remained silent, cautious with every action, every word. But Luna hadn't become the queen. She didn't want to rule. She didn't need to stand at the top of a new system, Nor did she want to replace Olivia to take control of the school. She didn't need loyal followers. She didn't need fear or admiration. She only wanted peace. That afternoon, Luna sat in her usual corner of the cafeteria, but this time no one avoided her, nor did anyone try to approach her with any hidden agenda. She was simply part of the crowd, neither isolated nor idolized. That was exactly what she wanted. At the table opposite, a group of students was chatting. One of them, a younger girl with short hair, who had been Olivia's bullying target last year, was telling a funny story about their math teacher. There was no more worry in her eyes, no more fear in her voice. Luna caught her gaze for a brief moment, and instead of turning away shyly as she had done before, the girl simply nodded slightly at Luna, a nod filled with quiet gratitude. Luna didn't need anyone to thank her, but the change in the eyes of those around her said it all. It didn't take long for Hawthorne High to adapt to the new order. Teachers became more serious in monitoring student behavior, and the principal introduced clearer rules about zero tolerance for bullying. The anonymous mocking messages, the malicious posts, the cruel jokes gradually disappeared. Not because all the students suddenly became good, but because they knew that the consequences for continuing their old ways would no longer be nothing. But even though the school had changed, there were still some who could not accept the new reality. A week after Olivia's disappearance, Haley, who had once been her right hand, stood in front of Luna's locker while she was packing up her books. "You think you've won, huh?" Haley's voice still carried contempt, but something had changed. It wasn't the unshakable arrogance anymore, but the bitterness of a loser who knew nothing else but to cling to whatever was left. Luna shut her locker and faced Haley. "I never played that game in the first place." Haley scoffed, but there was no joy in her eyes. "Olivia will come back, and when that happens, you'll wish you never touched her." Luna didn't get angry, didn't react to the threat. She just looked at Haley, as calmly as if she were observing someone trying to hold on to a sinking ship. "Then, let me see how that plays out," Luna replied, before walking away without looking back. She didn't need to do anything more. People like Haley, those who could only survive by relying on someone else's power, would eventually disappear. Luna wasn't the only one who felt the change. One day, she overheard a conversation in the hallway. A group of students was talking about a freshman who had just been threatened by an older student for lunch money. But instead of staying silent, a group of the boy's friends had stepped in to protect him, reporting the incident to a teacher before it could go too far. This never would have happened before. Before, the weaker ones would have accepted their fate, the stronger ones would have continued to dominate, and those in the middle would have stood by, too afraid to speak out. But now a new rule had been established. Not everyone was good, not everyone was brave, but everyone understood that no one was untouchable. There was no one like Olivia Parker anymore. No more fear holding them down. Luna stood in the schoolyard, watching the afternoon sunlight filter through the trees, casting patchy streaks of light across the pavement. She took a deep breath, feeling the fresh air fill her lungs. No one knew what she had done. No one knew how carefully her plan had been laid out, how every step, every action had been calculated in advance. But that didn't matter. She didn't do this to be recognized. She did this to live a life where no one like Olivia Parker could control it anymore. A new order had been established. Not perfect, not without bad people, but enough to allow Luna to walk down the school hallway without having to lower her head. And for her, that was enough. Olivia Parker left Hawthorne High quietly. There were no farewells, no crowds gathering to mourn her departure, no tears from those who once admired her. Just a luxury car parked outside the school gates on a gloomy Monday morning, a suitcase hurriedly placed in the trunk, and a frail figure stepping into the car without a second glance. News of Olivia's transfer spread quickly, but no one really cared. If her absence might have once sparked a wave of chaos, a series of rumors speculating on the reasons and consequences, now all anyone talked about Olivia were just old stories, faint memories of someone who once held absolute power but lost everything in the blink of an eye. No one remembered her as a queen. They only remembered her as someone to be despised. In the early days after leaving the school, Olivia still tried to believe she could start anew. She thought that by moving to a new school with new people and a completely unfamiliar environment, she could rebuild what she had lost. But the world never truly forgets the past. No matter where she went, the name Olivia Parker was always overshadowed by an indelible darkness. The posts on social media were still there. The videos continued to be shared. Every time she thought things had calmed down, a new message would pop up, a prying gaze would land on her, and whispers would rise from behind her. "I swear, I've seen her online. She's the one who got exposed, right? Look at that girl, that's her. She used to bully someone so badly they had to transfer. Did you see the video where she humiliated that girl? I can't believe someone like her exists." Wherever she went, the past clung to her like a shadow. No one was afraid of Olivia Parker anymore. They only looked down on her. There were days when Olivia stared at her phone, scrolling through old posts, old pictures, trying to find something of the person she used to be. But all she saw was emptiness. The faces that once surrounded her, those who had called her queen, now no longer reached out. No one sent her messages to check in. No one tried to comfort her. No one wanted anything to do with her. A few people who had once been loyal still followed her social media, but no one commented, no one interacted. They just stood from afar, watching her like a relic of the past. Her parents no longer treated her the same. Conversations at home grew cold, family meals filled with tension. Her mother no longer looked at her with pride, and her father's gaze was filled with undisguised disappointment. They didn't shout, they didn't scold, but their silence weighed heavier than 100 criticisms. One night, Olivia heard her parents talking in the living room. "We tried to cover this up, but it keeps showing up in the news." "I know," her mother replied, her voice low, "but we can't change the past." "She's ruined this family's reputation," her father said, bitterness in his voice. "And there's nothing we can do to fix it." Olivia stood outside the hallway, her hand gripping the railing, feeling as if a knife had just stabbed straight into her chest. One day, Olivia received a message. She opened it, her heart pounding when she saw a name she hadn't expected. Luna Carter. Just one line. "Have you learned your lesson yet?" Olivia stared at the screen, her hands cold as ice. She wanted to reply. She wanted to say something to defend herself, to scream that she didn't deserve what was happening to her. But she knew that no words could change the truth. She had lost everything, and nothing could save her anymore. Luna Carter sat at her usual spot in the cafeteria, as if nothing had changed. She still enjoyed the quiet, still sat alone, still savored the moments of silence amidst the noisy lunchtimes. But no one looked at her the same way anymore. There were no more scrutinizing gazes, no more whispers, no more people deliberately bumping into her just to make her stumble. Luna was still herself, but the world around her had changed completely. No one dared to bully anyone anymore. Not because they feared being exposed, but because they had seen the outcome of Olivia Parker and realized that there are limits that should not be crossed. Outside the window, the afternoon sun bathed the campus, turning the tree branches golden and stretching long shadows across the ground. Everything seemed the same, yet nothing was as it once was. The ones who had been the center of attention were now overshadowed, and the silent victims had found their voices again. The hallways were no longer a battlefield of senseless bullying, but had become a place where people could breathe more easily. Luna's story had become a quiet but powerful warning. Those who had witnessed the entire event understood one thing: never underestimate the quiet ones. Olivia Parker had vanished from Hawthorne High, but she still lingered in the scattered gossip like a ghost from the past. Occasionally, someone would mention her, but no longer with admiration or fear. They spoke of her as a cautionary tale, an example of how power could crumble in an instant when built on cruelty and malice. No one truly remembered Olivia as a queen. They only remembered that she had once existed and had been defeated. One day, while Luna was reading on the schoolyard, a voice spoke from just behind her. "You did what no one else dared to do." Luna didn't need to turn around to know who it was. She smiled faintly, continuing to flip through the pages, her eyes never leaving the words before her. And I think you were right." Luna closed the book, turned, and looked directly at the person who had spoken. It was one of the students who had watched as Olivia mocked her, one of the ones who had laughed when she was humiliated in front of the entire school. But today there was no trace of arrogance on his face, only sincerity. "Not everyone can stand up right away," he continued, his voice tinged with regret. "But you made everyone realize that silence can't last forever." Luna studied him for a moment, then tilted her head slightly. "Silence isn't weakness," she replied, her voice steady. "It's just another form of waiting." He fell silent, as if mulling over every word she had said. Luna stood up, stuffed the book into her bag, then looked at him one last time before walking away. "When the quiet ones fight back," she said, a smile playing at the corners of her lips, "it will be something no one expects." And with that, she walked off, leaving behind someone who had understood the truth and a world that had changed forever. Thus, Olivia Parker's story ended, but the lesson it left behind still remained. In a world where the strong always think they can control everything, sometimes it is the quiet ones who are the most dangerous, not because they seek revenge, but because they know how to wait for the right moment to change everything. Luna Carter wasn't seeking fame, nor did she need anyone to praise her. She wanted just one thing: justice. What about you? Have you ever witnessed or gone through a similar situation? If so, did you choose to stay silent or stand up? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story. If you liked this story and want to hear more tales about justice, revenge, and unexpected turnarounds, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss any of the next videos. Because sometimes, the one you least expect may be the one who can change everything.